Consciousness, reality, and the divine canvas. The double-slit experiment remains one of the most enigmatic demonstrations in modern physics. It reveals that light and matter, the very building blocks of existence, behave both as waves of probabilities and as particles of reality, depending on whether they are observed or they are not. When not measured, they spread out in interference patterns, suggesting they travel as waves across multiple paths. But when observed, they collapse into discrete particles as if they choose a definite outcome. This paradox unsettles our understanding of reality. Is the universe an objective stage, unfolding independently of us, or is it profoundly entangled with the act of observation, thought, and consciousness? Mainstream physics often explains this through the principle of decoherence, attributing it to interaction with instruments or the environment. Yet some thinkers, such as John Wheeler, have suggested that we live in a participatory universe, in which the cosmos comes into being through acts of observation. In this vision, consciousness does not merely perceive the universe, but helps to actualize it. Here, the resonance with the Quran becomes unmistakable, for the Quran reminds us that God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Chapter 13, verse 11. Inner transformation, the reshaping of thought and awareness, is inseparable from the outer manifestation of reality. The Quran itself draws a distinction between two layers of truth. It says, هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخرى متشابهات. Translation: He is the one who has revealed to you, O Prophet, the book of which some verses are precise. They are the foundation of the book, while others are elusive. Chapter 3, verse 7. Chapter 3, verse 7 speaks of muhkam verses, those which are clear, fixed, and decisive, the foundation of law and ethical certainty, and mutashabih verses, which are allegorical, symbolic, and open to interpretations. The muhkam are those truths upon which we can stand: God's oneness, the reality of accountability, the necessity of justice. The mutashabih are verses that shimmer with mystery, images of the throne, descriptions of paradise and hell, glimpses of the unseen world. They are not lies, but mirrors pointing beyond themselves, signposts to truths greater than language can fully capture. The universe too reflects this duality. It contains constants such as gravity and causality, which we can measure and rely upon, and it holds mysteries that dissolve when we try to fix them, just as waves collapse to particles under our gaze. Rumi captured this beautifully when he said, "The truth was a mirror in the hands of God. It fell and broke into pieces. Everyone took a piece of it, and they looked at it and thought they had the truth." The muhkam are the pieces we can hold firmly. The mutashabih are the reflections reminding us of the infinite whole. Modern psychology also reminds us that human consciousness is only a fragment of our full awareness. Beneath the rational mind lies the subconscious, where intuitions, memories, and hidden patterns shape our lives. Our subconscious is the source of dreams, inspirations, sudden insights, and unspoken fears. God says in chapter 50, verse 16, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Translation: Indeed, we created humankind and know what their souls whisper to them, and we are closer to them than their jugular vein. The Quran affirms that God is nearer to us than our jugular vein, suggesting that our inner depths are the very place where divine presence touches us most intimately. Ibn Arabi spoke of creation as the tajalli, the self-disclosure of God. The universe is the outward form of God, and God is the inwardness of the universe, says Ibn Arabi. The subconscious, in this sense, may be the bridge between the human mind and the divine mind, a place where whispers of hope and harmony reach us, guiding us even when we do not fully realize it. Yet, if God nudges us toward hope, why then do we experience despair, anger, fear, and hopelessness? The Quran itself offers a profound answer in chapter 91, verses 7 and 8. It says, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَالْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Translation: by the soul and He who proportioned it and inspired it with its wickedness and its righteousness. God has placed within us both potentials. He has created the whiteboard and placed chalk in our hands. With it, we can draw beauty or we can draw chaos. Negative thoughts are not alien intrusions, but part of the divine design, the raw material of our growth. They are shadows that make the light of resilience shine brighter when we overcome them. To struggle against despair and fear is nothing less than the jihad al-nafs, the great struggle of the soul. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus expressed a similar truth. He says, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The reality we live is not simply what happens to us, but the meanings we attach to those happenings. The Quran situates humanity not as passive observers, but as participants in creation. When God declared, I will place upon the earth a Khalifa, vicegerent, chapter 2, verse 30, He entrusted human beings with shaping the world responsibly. And again, when it says that God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves, chapter 13, verse 11. It affirms that we are not prisoners of fate, but agents of transformation. The mystics saw this clearly. Al-Hallaj, in words that scandalized his contemporaries, declared, I am he whom I love, and he whom I love is I. We are two spirits dwelling in one body. If you see me, you see him, and if you see him, you see us both. Though condemned by many, the essence of his insight was that in shaping reality, humans do not act independently but participate in the divine act of manifestation. Seen in this way, the double-slit experiment is not just a puzzle of physics, but a parable of existence. Reality exists as potentialities, like waves rippling across infinite possibilities. Consciousness, whether human or divine, collapses those potentials into lived experience, into the particles of the real. Our conscious thought and subconscious intention, aligned with God's ever-present consciousness, make us co-creators of the worlds we inhabit. God has set the canvas, provided the chalk, and whispered His guidance into every soul. What we draw depends on whether we listen to despair or to hope. Rumi counseled us. He says, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even the dark winter of despair. For who knows what spring may be stirring in the ruins. At this point, modern philosophy of mind offers a striking parallel. Materialist explanations often struggle to account for why consciousness exists at all. From inert matter, how does self-awareness arise? To answer this, some philosophers propose panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is not an accidental latecomer in evolution, but a fundamental feature of reality, present even in its smallest constituents. Others embrace idealism, the view that consciousness is not produced by matter, but is the ground of being itself. with the material world emerging as a manifestation within mind. These perspectives echo the Quran declaration that says, Lillahi ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. Translation: To God belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. Chapter 2, verse 284. Suggesting that the cosmos itself is a single living, aware reality. They also resonate with Ibn Arabi's insight that the universe is the outward form of God and God is the inwardness of the universe, and with Hallaj's daring proclamation of oneness. In panpsychism and idealism, modern philosophy circles back to what the Sufis and the sages have long intuited, that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter but its very essence. The true nature of reality then is participatory. It is not a fixed stage nor a blind machine, but a living field of possibilities where God's will and human choice continually intersect. The Quran holds us between the certainty of the muhkam and the mystery of the mutashabih, between the fixed truths we must live by and the open-ended wonder that calls us to humility. If God has one fully conscious mind, then our human consciousness and subconscious are sparks of that divine flame. Our thoughts and fears, our hopes and faith do not merely drift through reality, they sculpt it. And through all of this, the divine voice continues to nudge us closer than a jugular vein. Be hopeful, be just, be creators of harmony. Atheist materialism often insists that existence simply is, that it has no source, and that consciousness somehow arises from inert matter. But the double-slit experiment, along with modern philosophy of mind, undermines this view. If matter behaves as probability until observed, and if consciousness is required to bring actuality into being, then consciousness precedes matter rather than emerging from it. This reverses the materialist assumption. Creation is not sprouting from nothingness, it is emerging from the field of consciousness itself, which believers name as God. The atheist view that creation can arise from nothing, unguided, collapses under both scientific paradox and metaphysical reflection. The reality we face is not nothingness producing something, but thought producing being. The divine thought, beyond comprehension, calls worlds into existence with be. Our human thoughts, bound to our senses and our limited intellect, echo this process on a smaller scale, arranging our lived realities in response. And in this way, the paradox stands. Creation is real, yet it is also a thought. God is utterly beyond, yet intimately within. The Quran expresses this in its most powerful creative formula. It says, بَدِيُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَإِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. Translation: He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. When He decrees a matter, He simply tells it be, and it is. Chapter 2, verse 117. Kun fayakun. This is not the language of mechanical assembly, but of instantaneous manifestation. In essence, the Creator is a thought reality, not thought by itself, in the human sense of fleeting ideas, but the primordial, commanding consciousness whose intention crystallizes worlds. Ibn Arabi describes this as the nafs ar-Rahman, the breath of the all-merciful, by which all existence unfolds moment by moment. We as humans are indeed slaves of our senses. Our eyes, ears, and hands bring in data, and our intellect arranges it into a coherent image of reality. But behind this lies a deeper truth. Our thoughts are not passive reflection, but active participants. They are tools of creation, shaping the realities we experience. This leads us into what I understand as a divine paradox. If the Creator is thought reality, then our thoughts are both derivative of and dependent on His. We cannot unravel this mystery because our thinking apparatus itself is caught within it, just as a dream character cannot fully comprehend the dreamer. So creation cannot comprehend the essence of the creative mind. The Quran acknowledges this limitation when it says, لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. Translation: Vision perceives him not, but he perceives all vision. Chapter 6, verse 103. Which leads me to ask more questions. What happens to my thoughts when I die? Does my soul carry the memories I've experienced to my next existence? And if yes, then what? The answer is yes, and we will explore how. The Quran repeatedly emphasized that the consequences of our deeds and inner states are not confined to this physical plane. In chapter 3, verse 185, it says, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ زَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحِزَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَى مَتَاعِ الْغُرُورِ. Translation: Every soul will taste death, and you will only receive your full reward on the day of judgment. Whoever is spared from the fire and is admitted into paradise will indeed triumph, whereas the life of this world is no more than the delusion of enjoyment. This verse points to a continuity. Our inner life and our deeds have amplified consequences beyond the temporal in a reality that is permanent and not constrained by physical limitations. From a metaphysical perspective, the thesis fits perfectly. Guilt and contentment are not mere psychological states. In the Quranic and Sufi worldview, they are energies embedded in the soul, that is nafs, carrying potential to shape experiential realities. In this sense, heaven and hell are not only divine decrees imposed externally, but emanations of our inner life, projected and magnified into another dimension. Sufi philosophers often described this as the world of imaginal realities, alam-e-misal. Ibn Arabi writes that the soul carries its deeds like a resonance, which shapes its experience in the unseen world. If the soul is at peace, in contentment, it resonates with bliss and joy, creating heavenly experience in subtle dimensions. Conversely, unresolved guilt, malice, or despair resonate negatively, forming suffering in a reality more enduring than the temporal world. This also resonates with my earlier discussion about the double-slit analogy and the participatory universe. Just as consciousness collapses potentiality into manifestation in the physical plane, the inner life of the soul collapses moral and emotional potentialities into the realities of the hereafter. The difference is that in the hereafter dimension, the amplification is exponential. These structures created by thought and feeling are more real, more persistent, and beyond decay. The Quran makes this clear when it contrasts fleeting worldly life with eternal life to come. Chapter 29, verse 64, it says, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوَ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيْوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Translation: This worldly life is no more than play and amusement, but the hereafter is indeed the real life, if only they knew. Here, real does not mean merely morally superior. It implies ontologically superior, a reality whose weight and duration surpass anything in the physical universe. This framework also resolves an important metaphysical question. Why is ethical effort and inner purification emphasized? It is not only to shape social order in the temporal plane, but to tune the soul's resonance so that it manifests higher dimensional realities aligned with divine harmony. My thoughts, prayers, remorse, contentment, and love are all instruments for shaping not only how I experience life here, but also how the soul experiences hereafter. So yes, heaven and hell are not merely judicial outcomes imposed externally, but extended consequences of the inner architecture of the soul, amplified and projected into realities beyond our immediate perception. From this perspective, moral cultivation and inner reflection are acts of creation, not just in the mundane sense, but in the ultimate sense of crafting one's eternal reality. In the end, the Quran reminds us that all creation begins and ends with the command of the ultimate creator. His command when he intends a thing is only that he says to it, be, and it is. Chapter 36, verse 82. This means that the universe is not an accident, but a deliberate act of divine will. Before matter and energy, there was the reality of God's word, the pure command that brought existence into being. Human beings endowed with consciousness and free will are not creators in the absolute sense, but participants in manifestation. We reshape, rearrange, and redirect what has already been placed into fixed measure. Indeed, all things we created with predestination. Chapter 54, verse 49. Matter becomes energy, galaxies collapse and re-emerge, but nothing is lost beyond the divine order. For as the Quran affirms, we will fold the heaven like the folding of a scroll. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it. Chapter 21, verse 104. Within this vast unfolding, angels remains the executors of divine commands, beings who do not disobey Allah in what He commands them, but do what they are commanded. Chapter 66, verse 6. They have no share in reshaping reality through imagination or questioning. That unique role belongs to humans and jinn, who, gifted with free will, carry within themselves the capacity to project, to dream, and to turn possibilities into lived realities. Our inner states, contentment or guilt, become the seeds of our external realities, both in this life and the hereafter, where the Quran declares, the day every soul will find present what it has done of good and what it has done of evil. It will wish that between itself and that evil was a great distance. Chapter 3, verse 30. Thus, destiny is not a rigid prison, but a field where divine decree and human choice intersect. God sets the measure, but humans shape how they walk within it. Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Chapter 13, verse 11. In this lies both our dignity and our burden. Though we cannot create from nothing, we can manifest realities that echo into eternity. Heaven and hell, in this sense, are not only places to be entered, but states to be created and amplified beyond this dimension into a realm where thoughts and deeds solidify into lasting truth. And so, the Quranic vision of existence is neither deterministic nor chaotic, but balanced, a canvas of fixed divine creation where the brush strokes of human thought and will contribute to the unfolding picture. The Creator alone is the source, yet He has honored humankind with a share in shaping how that creation is lived and experienced. Quran says, we have certainly honored the children of Adam. Chapter 17, verse 70. It is this sacred honor to imagine, to choose, to manifest within the divine measure that makes the human journey at once humbling and exalted. A reminder that while we are not the source of creation, we are entrusted participants in its unfolding mystery.